This is Sully from Sully Law Firm. Today I brought all our attorneys together here. Dominique, let's introduce yourself first.
I'm Dominique Williams. I am a second-year attorney at Sully Law Firm.
I'm Diren Senga. I'm the managing attorney here at Sully Law Firm.
All right. So today I grabbed these two great attorneys and we're going to have a little bit of discussion as to what it's like being an attorney. I got some questions here and I'm going to start with number one. What kind of suit are we wearing? Dominique, where did you get your outfit?
I am very much a mix and match girl, so the blazer is Calvin Klein that I'm more than sure I stole from my mom. The t-shirt is Shein and the pants are Target.
Nice.
Yeah.
Diren, you are a client fashionista at this firm.
I have no idea the name, but I get everything. I have a tailor who basically does all my clothes just so I don't have to think about it. Because otherwise I'd be wearing the same thing every single day like an idiot.
All right. People think we travel to court all the time, that we're at court all the time, we're arguing all the time. Do you go to court often?
No, not often at all. I've had like 2 hearings and I've been here almost 2 years.
I think you had more than 2.
Maybe, but they were virtual, so I haven't even been in a courtroom. I've had 1 courtroom hearing.
That is one of the interesting things about the pandemic is it changed. And I know for myself, over the many years, it's varied. There were times when I felt like I was in court almost every week. And then there have been months where I hardly go to court at all. And as Dominique mentioned, during pandemic, court can often mean virtual. So less now than previously.
Well, I think also it's the nature of our work because a lot of people think, a lot of criminal law attorneys or family law attorney, they're at the court all the time because a lot of things are done through oral advocacy. But, in our line of work, in civil litigation and also IP litigation, a lot of things are done in writing. Most of our disputes are really described well in writing, and a lot of judges do not actually want to hear oral hearing. They just read the brief and then make a decision pretty much. And I think that's another reason that we don't really go to court.
That's true, Dominique, especially in your area of practice, you do a lot of intellectual property law. So obviously federal court, less number of hearings or personal hearings, in-person hearings compared to state court. And yeah, it's a good point. Also, the nature of the work we do would be compared to other areas, less in-person hearings.
Yeah, and it's funny because Dominique, dad always asks her hey, did you go to court today?
He is convinced that I'm not a real lawyer because I'm not in court every day. He's convinced.
Thanks, television.
Yeah. Well, so when you do go to court, do you guys practice? Do you guys practice your public speaking? Debbie, how do you guys do it?
So I make outlines and then I talk my outline out, whatever I'm doing. I could be doing my makeup and I'm like, Your Honor. Or washing dishes. I repeat it over and over. I stand in the mirror and do it until I get it down.
Yeah.
I think for me, over the years, really for each particular case, what I'll do is I'll work on little pieces. So maybe little arguments, I'll get them such that they just come off like set pieces, maybe you would do in sports. So you just you train a particular sequence so that when you're asked to repeat it, you don't even think about it. Your mouth does all the work and your brain's not even engaged. It just becomes an autopilot. So I'll do that for specific cases. It might be an argument. It might be even the pronunciation of someone's name, but you just practice it.
I do it in the car, and I sometimes see another driver, and they probably see me as a crazy person talking all the time while I'm driving. I'm like, Your Honor, this argument is about.
Blame Bluetooth. I was on the phone.
All right, Dominique, you are not from Dallas, right? You are from New Orleans. How do you like Dallas compared to New Orleans?
New Orleans is home. New Orleans has my heart, aside from Oakland. But I like Dallas a lot. I think I've grown a lot here. I got my first apartment. I finally learned how to drive at my big age of 27 in Dallas. So I feel like it's just been a growing opportunity, and I've really appreciated my experience here.
Okay, well, let's go to the main discussion today. What is it like being a lawyer? Let's talk about our own first year experience as an attorney. How was it different from what we learned in law school, as to first year associate life? Let's talk about it. How was it? I mean, you are most close to it, Dominique. What did you expect and how was it different?
I will say that I did not expect civil procedure to be as important as it was. And I feel like a lot of the time I'm learning a lot of procedural stuff and like how to file petitions in court, kind of when certain things need to be filed, what the process of litigation looks like. I know in law school, civil procedure I got a B plus, I think, but it was just like my least favorite subject. And I was like, I'm never gonna need this. I'm gonna be a transactional attorney. I do civil procedure every day. Also just like time management. I think litigation is a lot more spontaneous. So like usually when I try to plan out my day, I try to say, I'm gonna get this done between 11 and 11:30. And then like 60 things pop up between 11 and 11:30 and it just doesn't happen. So that was definitely unexpected.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, for me, obviously, it's been a long time, but I think when I first started being a young lawyer, probably a couple of things that surprised me was, number one, how inconsistently some lawyers seem to know a lot of the procedures. Some people didn't seem to want to follow the rules and didn't think it applied to them, I guess like people generally. And becoming aware of the importance of the rules and how they can really help, that became pretty obvious. And I think, Dominique, you raised a good point. It's about managing your tasks and your deadlines and how that's much more important than kind of perhaps the more theoretical discussions you have in law school. That's the biggest difference. It's practical.
Yeah. For me, I think the client experience was something different. I think at law school, all the facts are given. Here's the facts. And now, when you practice in real life, it's all of a sudden the facts are not facts. It's not true until proven, and that was such a big concept that I think changed me practicing law. Moving on to the next subject, what experience in other field you think helped you most as an attorney?
I went straight through from undergrad to law school. I studied a little bit of finance, but I think it helped me think kind of critically and really understand too how a lot of the business clients work. Understanding their business, understanding their products, understanding like the financial aspects of it. I think that's been really helpful.
For me, it's a little unusual. I was with a startup for many years after law school, before really being a lawyer. And I think the biggest advantage there is similar to what Dominique said, in the sense that it gave me a leg up in being able to explain legal concepts to business people in terms that they could operationalize. I just became very sensitive to it. Even though I wasn't technically the lawyer at that startup, I was looked to as the person with the legal knowledge. And I always had to talk about it. I always had to think about it and speak about it as though it were something that we could use and turn into actual decisions, as opposed to, limits or theory or something like that. So, again, pragmatic. It was the business end of it that gave me some insight.
And if you give advice to law students or law clerks, what would you give it to them?
I will say that like law school, the practice of law is not a one-size-fits-all experience. You just kind of have to know yourself and what works for you. And I kind of operate off that. I think that was like the key to law school, like my success as a law student. And now as a lawyer, like I don't feel like I practice like anyone. I kind of take things that I like from other more senior attorneys and just kind of make it my own.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think it would be have other interests as well. Very few areas of the law are pure law. A lot of them are applied to other things. So if you have other interests, whether it's hobbies or other areas of study, look into them. They can always be opportunities there.
The next question we have is tips for interviews, job interviews at a law firm. What are some of the tips that you want to give it to the interviewee who want to work for a law firm?
Prepare as much as possible. Don't come in saying, I want to practice litigation and the firm doesn't do litigation. Read up on the firm, kind of know what you want to do, know how to, when you explain your experience, know how to tailor it to the role at hand. I think that's really helpful. I know we just got a new attorney and I was impressed. Like, he didn't even interview with me, but we had like a firm meeting and he was like, oh, I saw on the website you went to this school and you did this. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And I think that just showed an interest and initiative.
I would say for young lawyers, especially looking for your first job, be aware of what it is you want, because a good law firm is going to ask and be serious about where do you want to be in a few years, and you should have a vision of that. You shouldn't look to the new company to sort of provide that for you. You should think about it and be able to express it.
I agree with both of you guys. I think number one, strong interest in the firm is always nice. Be prepared. You want to be liked, we want to be liked, right? It's that simple. And I think number two also, I think figure out, I mean, it is a process as an attorney. It's a journey for you to figure out who you are as an attorney. And I think a lot of firms understand that when they deal with the first year associate. But at the same time, try to explore it. I think a lot of attorneys are used to being more like a student mindset where things are given to them, information are fed to them, but be active as to what you want to learn, because there's so much information when you actually start becoming a lawyer and practice. And I think making sure being intentional about what you want is important. All right, let's move on. Next question, work-life balance as a lawyer. All right, let's ask one question. Is that possible? Is there such a thing as a work-life balance as a lawyer?
I'm sure there is. I'm trying to make it a thing. No, I will say it just kind of depends on the time of the year and kind of what's going on. Like, it's been times where I'm like, okay, I want to go hop on a flight and spend a week somewhere else to change the weather. And then there's times where I just can't do that, and it just comes with the job.
There's a certain amount of planning you can do, and there's a certain amount of sacrifice you just make in order to be able to do what it is we do. So you have to kind of plan what you can and accept that that's not always going to be easy.
So, assuming that it doesn't really exist, right? The work-life balance. There's some that sometime it will exist, sometime it won't, right? But how do we make best out of it? How do we keep some work-life balance? So, to prevent burnout, from going completely insane, how do we do it?
Cry. No.
Dominique is like, tell me the secret.
No, I like to spend like as much time as possible, even on weekends. I take a day just to have to myself, to do nothing, to kind of breathe, meal prep, just because I like to cook.
Yeah.
I think too, like hiring people to do stuff has really helped. Like sometimes if I can't deal with the cleaning, I'll call a cleaning person.
Yeah.
For $60, they'll clean my apartment. It's great. But I try to take advantage of like every little opportunity to make time for myself.
Yeah, I think prioritizing other interests you have, whether that's family or hobbies or friends and all those sorts of things, putting them on your calendar sounds boring, but it's actually really effective because it forces you to adjust other things around your priorities. So if you accept that as lawyers, obviously we live and die by the calendar, but just because our calendar has legal things in it, it doesn't mean it's the only thing on it. There could be all kinds of commitments we make, and we're able to move other things around to make those things fit. So I think it's just a question of using the skills we use in our practice, in our lives, can weirdly help us elevate the things that we care about in our regular lives as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think when it comes to calendaring, I think the big secret is people describe it as rock, pebble, sand, and it's like if you have a big commitment that you want to make sure that you want to do for the family, put it down year before, put it down, and then make your schedule work around it, and then put your pebble in.
Right.
The small events, your birthday that you want to attend, the small thing, put it in, and then start pouring the water, the sand, because otherwise you'll never find time.
Right.
In this job field, unfortunately, task is endless, right? We can always create more tasks to do, and we can always have more stuff to do. We can always make better drafting, better writing,
right.
And I think that's the only way you can make it work. All right, moving on to next one. What kind of work do you think lawyers do?
What kind of work do I think lawyers do? A lot of it is just like client management. And I described it to someone, like a high schooler. I was like, it's kind of like babysitting adults. Is what we do. But it's really good though, because it helps you kind of sharpen your communication skills. You get a break from like talking legalese all the time and being able to explain it to someone who doesn't have the legal background. A lot of writing, a lot of research.
I agree. I think we joke about it as babysitting of adults, but it's more like when people are, I think, encountered with so much troubles, I think they're overwhelmed, right? And it's like help them think about the process. Okay, why are we overwhelmed? Well, there's a problem. This is what you think is going to happen, and people somehow jump from I have a problem today to tomorrow I'm going to be on the street and I'm going to be homeless, right? Yeah. And it's not, and 99% of the time it's not like that. I can guarantee you that 99% of time somehow like the lawsuit you could receive today doesn't translate to you going, being homeless tomorrow. And right. I think a lot of people deal with that and just making them understand it, because somehow I think when they make that jump, that fear and then that worry just clouds your head so much, and you cannot make a good judgment out of it anymore. So I agree with that point. What do you think is what lawyers do?
I think primarily it's problem solver, but I think you guys raise a good point. A lot of it is kind of that active listening part of it. People talk about lawyers as wearing two fundamental hats: the advocate, you go out there and you argue on behalf of people, and then also the counselor, you try to give them your best advice. But a big part of that really is listening. I mean, I guess that's the key to counseling them effectively and making them understand that their problems have solutions, and helping them have the insight from us that they can ultimately make important decisions. I mean, that's a big part of why they come to us. They don't know how to make these decisions.
Yeah, I do think lawyers as problem solvers too. You know, at the end of the day, we've seen it. A lot of lawyers, especially if you go to the firm that handles a specific matter. I mean, a lot of clients ask us these questions too. Have you done this before? And to us, like litigation, we do like 100 of them like every year, and it's like we've done it, we've seen it, we know how it goes. And so I think just explain that process to the clients, and then just really let them know, okay, we've seen this problem, we know how to solve it. And sometimes the problems are new to us too, but at the same time, within that field of the rectangle of, in that field, we know how to solve it. So that's, I think, what we really do. All right, the other questions we have is, anything that was unexpected that you are doing that was different from your expectation now being a lawyer?
I honestly think I would have been in court more, just because I knew I was going to be doing litigation. Like, I thought it was going to be a lot more frequent than it has been.
Okay.
Things that are different, probably something Dominique mentioned earlier, which is the client relationship part of it. It's definitely more than you're led to believe when you are going through all those discussions and as a young person in law school, and maybe even as a young clerk. You're thinking it's all about legal theory and all these wonderful concepts and precedents and all that stuff. But the client relationship part of it is a bigger part of the day than I think that you would think.
Yeah. For me, I also think the client relationship is a lot bigger than people think. And also, for me, what was surprising is what is going on objectively. I joke about it. What is going on objectively in a courtroom is very different from sometimes client's perspective. Yeah. And I mean, it's heavily depends on the communication skills too. But sometimes we have great victories in the courtroom, and the client doesn't see that as a big victory. Or the other way, we have a bad situation going on in the courtroom, and the client may just think it as a very minor stuff going on.
Right.
You know, and it's very surprising how. Despite the communication, that sometimes that can happen. So I think bridging that communication was a lot bigger part than I expected. All right, what were your law school experience like?
Virtual.
Well, you're a COVID baby, so COVID law school.
Yeah, so half of it was virtual, but it was cool. I did mock trial, I did journal. I was able to take a lot of the classes I want, so I did a lot of like intellectual property classes, entertainment law, tax, which was fun. But I guess it was just different just because half of it was virtual, and so you miss out on a lot of time.
What about you, Diren?
I can barely remember, but I think law school for me was chock full of surprises. I don't think that going in I had a great sense of how the law is actually broken up. I think I knew there's criminal lawyers and then there's civil lawyers, and that's probably about as much as I knew of the way things broke out. I have a lot of family members who are lawyers, but they're in different systems in part. And also, I probably didn't ask the follow-up questions in terms of what's your actual day like. I knew some of them went to court, and I knew some of them wrote things, and I didn't really know what the day was like. So I think learning how the process works, and even how the different concepts intertwine, and how the names for the different specialties and areas of law stack on top of each other was all very new to me in law school. So my recollection is I didn't know what a tort was. For example, going into first year law student, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And it was. I remember feeling the puzzle pieces start to fall together. It was interesting.
What is your biggest challenge as a lawyer?
As of now, it's been time management. I think as a second-year attorney where I'm doing more, it's just been kind of challenging, learning how to like manage my schedule and like prioritize my task. I think that right now is my biggest struggle.
Okay. What is your biggest challenge as a lawyer?
Ooh, it's probably similar in that it's a balancing issue. There's the different things you do for clients. There's the different things you need to do amongst the other lawyers in the firm, and then there's different things you want to do just for the firm overall from sort of a management perspective. Finding a way in which to do all of those things is a challenge.
Last question I have: who is your role model?
Probably, if I had to answer this question honestly, it would be my grandma. Like, it's funny because y'all haven't met her, but everyone who sees me is like, oh, you're just like a copy of your grandma. Y'all look alike, y'all act alike, y'all dress alike, y'all walk alike. So definitely my grandma.
Okay.
But professionally, I would say everyone here. I think that I'm so inspired by all the attorneys that I'm surrounded by. I learned so much from all of you. I think that Diren is the smartest person ever. I remember my first time getting a compliment from him, and I went home and I called my mom. I think Catherine is just very strong-willed, very admirable. I think that you keep me accountable for sure. I can always come to you for advice. And even when I'm not quite on the right track, you get me there. So I think I'm just really professionally inspired by everybody that's here.
Oh,
Diren,
for me
what
that's
about
hard.
you?
It's probably a mishmash of older family members from when I was little. It's probably, if I had to really think about it, that's probably why I went into law. I probably have old aunts and uncles and cousins and things who practice law, and that seemed like a good life to live. I like the way they carried themselves and that sort of a thing. And then there's also people I've worked with. I mean, it's funny now at this point at this firm, I'm the old guy. I'm suddenly the senior person. But for many years, I was always kind of the young person around the office. It was a lot of the other lawyers were older than me, and I was the young hotshot. And it's interesting to wear the wisdom hat now. I'm the wise one. At least I play one on TV. And that's been interesting, is to sort of play those different roles and carry over, I think, a lot of what I've learned from other lawyers from when I was young, to work with a lot of the lawyers here. The lawyers here, Dominique's right, we have an outstanding team, and the fact that some of them are able to achieve such things at young ages is definitely inspiring. It's great to see that the law is moving and evolving quickly.
Yeah, I definitely agree that a lot of we have an amazing team, and I think team members really inspire each other, because I would say like my number one criteria for hiring in this firm is someone I have to respect as an attorney. Like, when I see their work and when I see the way they represent clients, I have to respect them. It's otherwise you can't possibly work together. I think, right. And I think everyone here, with even the youngest attorney, I think I have tremendous respect for what they do, and I look forward to working with them every day. It's wake up and I come in and I'm just like, wow, they make such a great argument, and they just their understanding of law and then the theory of it is just, it's so wonderful. It's wonderful to work with great attorneys, and I think they are really the role model. All right, I think that's the end of it for today. Thank you very much, everyone.